Are you ready for some good news? All the problems of life. You aren't called to promote them. It doesn't help to pretend they aren't there, and you can't prevent them. Instead, you can praise God in the midst of them. Here's today's text in Philippians chapter 2. But you know Timothy's proven worth, how as a son with a father he has served with me in the gospel. I hope therefore to send him just as soon as I see how it will go with me. And I trust in the Lord that shortly I myself will come also. That's part of a larger passage, Philippians 2:19-30, that contains some of the most tender words Paul ever wrote. At first glance, it seems to be an unimportant report on Timothy and Epaphroditus. But as I meditated on the text, I saw something much deeper. Paul opens up. He's writing honestly about his problems. You could almost read right past it without noticing his transparency. He doesn't harp on his problems. He doesn't give needless details. And what you talk about and think about, you magnify. Paul doesn't promote his problems, but he's not pretending either. No one has ever praised God more than Paul, but never once does Paul pretend that he doesn't face the same kind of problems, and even worse, that all people do. In fact, Paul is real enough to admit that he doesn't know how everything's going to turn out. He says he wants to send Timothy just as soon as he sees how it will go, but he's speaking of his trial. Paul could be set free or Rome could execute him. Paul honestly didn't know what was going to happen. He was admitting that he couldn't prevent problems. If we mustn't promote our problems needlessly, and if we would be silly to pretend they aren't real or to vainly imagine that we could prevent them, how are we to speak of the problems of life? Paul spoke honestly, tenderly, and hopefully. His heart remained full of praise. So our decision, like he says in chapter 3, to rejoice in the Lord, doesn't magically make our problems disappear, but it does put them in perspective. The choice to praise God reminds our souls of the vast grace of God. Praise magnifies God, and thus problems become smaller in comparison. You don't have to talk about your problems all the time. You don't have to deny them. You certainly aren't able to prevent all of them, but no matter what, you can praise God in the midst of your problems, and that's the gospel. Well, that's today's daily devotional. But if you'd like to get more good news on this subject by listening to today's full broadcast, you can get it at sharingthelight.org.